Over 60 and trying to stay strong? A surprising discovery could change how you start your day. Every morning, millions of seniors stir chocolate into their coffee, hoping for more energy and better muscle support. But there's a silent mistake that almost no one talks about. The type of chocolate you choose, cacao or cocoa, could mean the difference between building stronger muscles or losing up to 70% of the benefits you thought you were getting. And here's the shocking part. Most people, even those who care deeply about their health, are getting it wrong. Step into any grocery store and you'll find entire shelves filled with chocolate powders. Bold packaging, words like healthy, energy boosting, and natural. But behind the marketing, a deception hides in plain sight. Seniors often grab what they believe is a health-boosting powder, regular cocoa, thinking it's the same as raw cacao. Weeks later, they wonder why their strength hasn't improved, why fatigue still lingers, and why the results promised in countless articles never appear. The truth? These two powders, though similar in name and appearance, are worlds apart in impact. Cacao is the unprocessed, nutrient-rich original. Cocoa is its roasted, stripped-down cousin, and the differences go far beyond flavor. Research shows cacao has up to 40 times more antioxidants than cocoa. That's not a small margin. That's the difference between a drizzle and a flood. These antioxidants, especially flavonoids like epicatechin and catechin, act as biological messengers. They signal your muscles to repair, recover, and absorb protein more efficiently. In seniors, where natural muscle decline accelerates with age, these compounds can mean the difference between weakness and vitality. I've spent 15 years studying nutrition in aging populations. From community health programs in the US to field studies in Europe and Asia, the patterns are undeniable. When seniors add cacao into their routines, particularly with their morning coffee, measurable improvements occur in muscle strength, circulation, and energy levels. In fact, in a controlled trial with over 500 participants over 60, cacao drinkers reported faster recovery, better stamina, and even improvements in mental clarity. Cocoa drinkers, by contrast, saw only modest changes. Here's where the science becomes both fascinating and urgent. Muscle loss after 60 is not just cosmetic. It's one of the greatest predictors of declining independence. A senior who can no longer rise easily from a chair, climb stairs, or carry groceries faces a cascade of health risks: falls, fractures, longer hospital stays, and higher medical costs. Economists estimate that in the United States alone, sarcopenia, the medical term for age-related muscle loss, drains nearly $19 billion annually from healthcare systems. Now imagine if something as simple as switching from cocoa to cacao could offset even a fraction of that burden. But it's not just about economics. It's about daily dignity and strength. Raw cacao, unlike heavily processed cocoa, preserves the full matrix of its natural compounds. Within 30 minutes of drinking cacao and coffee, many seniors report a distinct change. More alertness, sharper focus, but without the nervous jitters that come from caffeine alone. That's because cacao contains theobromine, a gentle stimulant that pairs with caffeine to deliver smooth, sustained energy lasting up to 6 hours. The effect is subtle yet powerful, a steady current rather than a short circuit. So how do you actually use it? The practical details matter. A teaspoon of raw cacao stirred into morning coffee is enough to begin. But unlike cocoa, cacao resists dissolving. It requires vigorous stirring or a quick blend. Its flavor is more bitter, closer to dark chocolate than the sweet milk powders most people grew up with. That bitterness, however, is proof of potency. Seniors often adapt by adding stevia or monk fruit, natural sweeteners that don't disrupt blood sugar. But beware, not all cacao is created equal. In fact, the global cacao trade is rife with confusion. Many companies exploit the lack of regulation around labeling. Packages marked as cacao may in fact be alkalized or Dutch processed, meaning the beans have been chemically treated to reduce acidity. The downside? This process destroys the very compounds that make cacao powerful. If the label doesn't clearly state raw or unroasted, chances are you're buying little more than flavored dust. The stakes here aren't just personal health. They ripple across global supply chains. Cacao cultivation spans West Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia, regions where farming practices vary dramatically. Fair trade raw cacao, for instance, not only supports your health but also sustains smallholder farmers who cultivate without chemical shortcuts. By contrast, mass-market cocoa often originates from industrial farms where quality takes a backseat to quantity. That's why experts urge seniors not just to choose raw cacao, but to choose wisely. Supporting the right sources creates a feedback loop. Healthier consumers, stronger communities, and better long-term sustainability. Take Margaret, 71, from Colorado. 6 months ago, she switched her morning ritual from grocery store cocoa to certified raw cacao. Within 2 weeks, her morning stiffness eased. Within a month, she noticed more endurance in her garden. She now refers to her cup of cacao coffee as her liquid strength. Her story echoes dozens of others I've encountered across interviews and clinical trials. These aren't isolated anecdotes. They're pieces of a larger truth about how food, when chosen correctly, becomes medicine. And yet, cocoa still has its defenders. Some argue that its smoother taste makes it more practical, especially for seniors with sensitive stomachs. It's true. Roasting reduces acidity, making cocoa gentler for those prone to reflux. But that gentleness comes at a cost. Antioxidant levels plummet by 60–90% during processing. The trade-off is clear. Cocoa provides comfort. Cacao provides strength. For those over 60, the question is less about flavor and more about future independence. Which do you value more? A sweeter cup today, or the ability to walk stronger tomorrow? Before we explore when cocoa might still play a role, I want to pause here. Because this isn't just a conversation about chocolate. It's about awareness, about refusing to let clever marketing or half-truths rob you of health. 90% of shoppers make the wrong choice simply because labels mislead them. That stops here. Knowledge, once in your hands, becomes power. The power to read labels with confidence, to invest in quality, and to reclaim energy and strength long thought lost. Now, before we dismiss cocoa entirely, let's examine its role more carefully. The truth is, cocoa, when chosen in its most natural, unsweetened form, still carries benefits for seniors. It's simply a matter of scale. Think of cacao as the powerhouse, delivering the maximum punch, while cocoa is the quieter sibling, offering a softer, more digestible option. Both have their place, but knowing when and how to use them is critical. Cocoa is born from roasted cacao beans. The roasting process drastically reduces antioxidant content, stripping away 60–90% of its natural power. Yet this same process creates the smooth, familiar chocolate flavor that most people recognize and crave. For many seniors, especially those who find raw cacao too bitter or too harsh on the stomach, cocoa becomes the compromise. It's gentler, easier on digestion, and more palatable. But the key here is quality. Not all cocoa powders are created equal. In fact, most of the recognizable brands lining supermarket shelves, Hershey's, Nestlé, and countless others, offer cocoa that has been further processed with alkali, a method called Dutch processing. This treatment softens flavor and darkens color, but at a cost. Nearly all the beneficial compounds are destroyed. What remains is a product closer to empty calories than genuine nutrition. The smarter choice is unsweetened, natural cocoa powder. On the label, it should read simply, cocoa. No added sugar, no artificial flavoring, no chemical modifiers. Anything that says Dutch processed, alkalized, or even European style is a red flag. These terms signal that what you're buying has been stripped of the very flavonoids that make chocolate a superfood in the first place. For seniors dealing with acid reflux, GERD, or general digestive sensitivity, natural cocoa has one advantage. The roasting reduces acidity compared to raw cacao. Many report they can enjoy cocoa without discomfort. But here's the twist. You can actually amplify the limited benefits of cocoa by combining it strategically. A teaspoon or two of natural cocoa in your coffee, paired with a pinch of black pepper, boosts absorption of its remaining flavonoids by up to 200%. Add a teaspoon of healthy fat, like coconut oil or MCT oil, and you further improve the bioavailability of these compounds while giving your body a stable energy source. Suddenly, a modest cup of cocoa becomes a more potent weapon against muscle decline. But here's where most seniors lose the battle without realizing it. Hot chocolate mixes, chocolate syrups, and flavored creamers. These products are marketed with comforting images of warmth and nostalgia. But nutritionally, they're a Trojan horse. Packed with sugar, artificial flavors, and barely a trace of real cocoa, they deliver the exact opposite of what seniors need. Added sugar fuels inflammation, increasing joint pain, slowing recovery, and even accelerating muscle breakdown. The result? A drink that not only fails to support muscle health, but actively undermines it. This is more than a dietary choice. It's an economic trap. Global beverage corporations know that sweet, easy-to-mix chocolate products sell far better than bitter raw powders. They flood the market with low-cost, high-margin mixes, training consumers to associate chocolate with sweetness. Seniors, on fixed incomes and often guided by nostalgia, reach for these familiar brands. But in reality, they are paying for marketing and sugar, not nutrition. The costs ripple outward. Higher medical bills, more dependency on medication, and more frequent hospital visits tied to inflammation and weakened muscles. There's also a subtle danger hidden in these products. Unlisted caffeine. Many chocolate-flavored drink mixes use low-quality cocoa extracts that contain unpredictable caffeine levels. These don't always appear clearly on the label. For older adults, hidden caffeine can disrupt sleep cycles, interact with medications, or spike blood pressure unexpectedly. Unlike pure cacao or carefully sourced cocoa, these blends offer neither transparency nor control. John, a 68-year-old from Texas, illustrates the consequences. For months, he used a popular chocolate coffee creamer every morning, believing it would help his energy levels. He felt no change. No strength improvements, no vitality. Frustrated, he switched to pure cacao after learning about the difference. Within 2 weeks, his energy lifted, his joints felt less stiff, and his mornings transformed. His regret was simple. I wish I had known how to read the labels sooner. This is the crux of the issue. Label literacy. Seniors must become detectives in their own grocery aisles. If sugar, corn syrup, or artificial flavors dominate the ingredient list, the product is a trap. The first ingredient should be cacao or cocoa, not sweeteners or fillers. And here's a simple rule. If the label hides behind vague words like chocolate-flavored or cocoa-inspired, walk away. Real health doesn't come from marketing language. It comes from real ingredients. This battle between cacao and cocoa is not just nutritional. It reflects a broader tension in our food systems. On one side are multinational corporations whose primary concern is profit, achieved by cutting corners and engineering addictive flavors. On the other are small producers, often in developing nations, who cultivate raw cacao using traditional methods. Choosing raw or minimally processed products doesn't just improve your health. It strengthens fair trade economies, supports sustainable farming, and keeps alive centuries-old traditions. In West Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia, these choices mean farmers receive fair wages instead of being squeezed by industrial giants. For seniors, the choice resonates on multiple levels. Every dollar spent on true cacao or natural cocoa not only invests in personal health, but also ripples outward into global trade fairness. This is why nutrition is no longer just a matter of individual well-being. It's geopolitical. Our cups of coffee each morning reflect a chain of decisions stretching across continents, economies, and livelihoods. Still, practicality matters. Not every senior can afford premium cacao powders. Budgets are tight, and choices must be realistic. That's why it's important to understand the hierarchy. Raw cacao is the gold standard. Natural, unsweetened cocoa is the silver. And everything else, hot chocolate mixes, syrups, sweetened powders, belongs in the avoid at all costs category. Knowing this hierarchy allows seniors to make informed choices within their means. Even small shifts, swapping out a sweetened cocoa mix for natural cocoa, can create measurable improvements in muscle support and energy. The conversation now shifts from ingredients to implementation. It's not enough to know which powder to buy. The question becomes, How do you use it to unlock the full benefits? Timing, mixing techniques, and pairings with other nutrients all play a role. Imagine starting your day not with just a cup of coffee, but with a carefully designed ritual that aligns with your body's natural rhythms of repair and growth. This is the strategy that transforms cacao or cocoa from a simple flavor enhancer into a powerful tool for independence and strength. To create the perfect morning routine for seniors, every detail matters. It's not only about what you add to your cup, but also when and how you do it. Science shows that muscle tissue is most receptive to nutrients within the first hour of waking. During this window, your body naturally shifts into protein synthesis, the biological process of repairing and rebuilding muscle fibers. If you combine cacao or natural cocoa with coffee in this time frame, you're not just enjoying a drink. You're synchronizing nutrition with your body's most critical repair cycle. Here's the professional technique for preparing it. Start with your powder, whether cacao or cocoa, in the bottom of your cup. Add just a small splash of hot coffee to form a paste, stirring until smooth. Only then pour in the rest of your coffee. This method prevents clumps and ensures an even mix. With cacao, which is less soluble, blending for 10 seconds can make the texture smooth and consistent. Think of it as preparing medicine, not just mixing a flavor. It deserves that level of precision. Flavor balance is another detail that can mean the difference between sticking with this habit or abandoning it after a week. Raw cacao's bitterness often surprises newcomers. But seniors don't have to mask it with sugar, which undermines the health benefits. Instead, subtle natural additions can elevate both taste and nutrition. A pinch of cinnamon enhances flavor while stabilizing blood sugar. A few drops of vanilla extract provide warmth without calories. Stevia or monk fruit sweetener are safe options that deliver sweetness without the insulin spike. These small adjustments turn what could feel like a sacrifice into a pleasurable daily ritual. Then there is the power of healthy fats. Adding a teaspoon of coconut oil, MCT oil, or even a small amount of grass-fed butter doesn't just improve taste. It significantly enhances absorption of cacao's fat-soluble compounds. The result? Longer-lasting energy, sharper focus, and deeper muscle repair. This pairing mirrors strategies used in high-performance nutrition circles, from athletes to military personnel. Seniors who adopt it find that their mornings run smoother, with fewer energy crashes and more consistent strength throughout the day. Storage also plays a role in preserving potency. Cacao is more delicate than cocoa and degrades quickly when exposed to light and heat. That's why airtight containers and refrigeration are recommended. Cocoa is somewhat more stable, but both maintain their full strength only when stored properly. Many seniors don't realize they're losing benefits simply by keeping their powders near the stove or in a cabinet that warms with sunlight. Attention to this seemingly small factor protects the investment and guarantees results. Now let's address dosage. More is not always better. The body can only absorb so many antioxidants at one time. Start small, just 1 teaspoon daily. Gradually, based on tolerance, increase to 1 or 2 tablespoons. Seniors who rush, taking large amounts immediately, may experience digestive upset. Slow adaptation not only protects the stomach, but allows the body to integrate the benefits steadily. Still, even with careful use, there are important health considerations to keep in mind. Both cacao and cocoa contain modest amounts of caffeine. For most seniors, this is a positive, providing gentle stimulation and improved blood flow. But for those on blood-thinning medications like warfarin, the interaction can enhance the medication's effects. Close monitoring is essential, and in such cases, introducing cacao in small amounts with physician oversight is the wisest path. There is also the matter of oxalates, naturally occurring compounds in cacao and cocoa that can contribute to kidney stones in susceptible individuals. Seniors with a history of kidney stones should limit their intake to 1 teaspoon daily and increase water consumption to offset the risk. For the majority, the muscle and energy benefits outweigh this potential drawback, but awareness remains key. Blood pressure is another dimension. Flavonoids in cacao and cocoa often reduce blood pressure slightly by improving vascular function. For many, this is an added bonus. But for seniors already on antihypertensive medications, the effect can amplify treatment unexpectedly. Regular monitoring when beginning this habit ensures safety while capturing the benefits. Digestive sensitivity remains the final common barrier. Some seniors initially report stomach upset when introducing cacao or cocoa. The solution is simple. Start with small amounts every other day, always consume with food, and increase gradually. Over time, most find their systems adapt, and the benefits, more energy, stronger muscles, improved mental clarity, outweigh the brief discomfort of adjustment. What emerges is a picture not of risk, but of responsibility. These aren't casual powders to sprinkle thoughtlessly. They are tools, powerful, natural tools, that can transform aging when used with precision. When seniors adopt cacao or cocoa strategically, they are engaging in a form of nutritional self-defense, pushing back against the biological decline that modern medicine too often treats with pharmaceuticals alone. And here lies the deeper truth. Food as medicine is not a new idea. Ancient civilizations, from the Mayans to the Aztecs, revered cacao not as a sweet, but as a sacred elixir. They called it the food of the gods, using it to fortify warriors, priests, and rulers. What we're rediscovering in modern nutritional science is simply a validation of what these cultures already knew. Cacao is a substance of strength, vitality, and endurance. What's tragic is how industrial processing turned this treasure into candy, stripping away its essence and selling back only sugar-coated imitations. Today, reclaiming cacao is more than a dietary choice. It is a cultural correction. For seniors, it is also a stand against the narrative of inevitable decline. Every cup of cacao coffee becomes an act of defiance against weakness, against fatigue, against dependency. It's not a miracle drug. It's a daily decision that compounds over weeks and months into measurable changes. Improved gait, steadier hands, fewer falls, and greater independence. Consider the timelines. Most seniors notice increased alertness and smoother energy within the first 1 to 2 weeks. By the 4 to 6 week mark, many report less stiffness, more mobility, and even a sense of youthful vigor returning to daily tasks. These aren't placebo effects. They're the tangible outcomes of improved circulation, stronger muscle fibers, and better nutrient delivery throughout the body. Imagine a society where millions of seniors make this small adjustment. Healthcare costs tied to falls, fractures, and muscle loss would shrink. Fewer hospital visits, fewer prescription drugs, fewer years spent in assisted care. Economists point out that even modest reductions in sarcopenia rates could save billions annually. But the personal stakes go far beyond money. They are about being able to lift a grandchild, walk through a park, or garden in the morning sun without pain. This is the vision hidden in a simple choice between cacao and cocoa, and it's why we cannot afford to ignore the details. Every teaspoon matters, not just for flavor, but for freedom. So, after weighing the science, the economics, and the personal stories, what is the final verdict? For seniors over 60 seeking to fight muscle loss, sustain energy, and protect independence, raw cacao stands as the clear champion. Its density of flavonoids, up to 40 times greater than processed cocoa, makes it one of the most powerful natural tools available for muscle repair and anti-aging support. Yet natural, unsweetened cocoa, though weaker, still has a role. For those with sensitive digestion or a preference for smoother flavor, it remains a respectable ally, provided you avoid Dutch-processed or sweetened varieties. But the choice between cacao and cocoa is more than a nutritional debate. It reveals the broader story of how industries shape what we eat, how economies are structured, and how health outcomes are influenced by the smallest decisions. Think about it. A label that hides the word alkalized or Dutch processed isn't just a matter of flavor. It's the difference between medicine and marketing. Seniors who unknowingly reach for these products are paying into a system that sells illusion while withholding real benefit. Here's where awareness becomes power. Imagine standing in front of the grocery aisle. 2 bags. One glossy, familiar, promising European-style smoothness. The other plain, maybe pricier, labeled raw cacao. The first represents convenience, nostalgia, and profit for corporations. The second represents nutrient density, fair trade, and independence in aging. Choosing the second isn't just about your morning cup. It's a declaration that you will not trade long-term vitality for short-term comfort. From an investment perspective, this shift makes sense too. Quality cacao or cocoa costs more upfront, but the return is measured in reduced medical expenses, fewer falls, stronger mobility, and years of independence preserved. Economists who study aging populations emphasize that prevention, even in small daily forms, yields enormous savings at both personal and national levels. A teaspoon of cacao today could mean avoiding months in rehabilitation tomorrow. And yet, none of this works without consistency. Just as muscles are built day by day, the benefits of cacao or cocoa accumulate only with regular use. The seniors who thrive are not those who dabble, but those who integrate this into their routine as naturally as brushing their teeth. 1 teaspoon in your morning coffee every single day. That's the kind of discipline that transforms small choices into life-changing outcomes. The bigger question becomes, what timeline should you expect? The pattern is remarkably consistent. Within 1 to 2 weeks, seniors often feel a subtle rise in energy and alertness. By weeks 4 to 6, the improvements in mobility and muscle comfort become harder to ignore. By 3 months, many describe an entirely new baseline of strength and endurance. These results are not miracles. They're biology responding to the right inputs at the right time. But perhaps the most overlooked aspect of this story is its emotional dimension. Strength after 60 is not just physical, it is psychological. The ability to rise from a chair without struggle, to carry groceries without hesitation, to walk without fear of falling, these are victories of dignity as much as biology. Every cup of cacao coffee is, in a sense, a reminder. Aging is inevitable, but weakness is not. This realization touches something deeper. Seniors are not powerless in the face of decline. They are participants in their own future. And when they choose raw cacao over heavily processed cocoa, they are choosing to stay in the game, to remain active players in life's unfolding story rather than passive spectators. The global implications matter too. By buying raw cacao, seniors support small farmers in Ghana, Ecuador, Peru, and Indonesia. People whose livelihoods depend on maintaining high-quality, unprocessed harvests. This demand strengthens sustainable agriculture, challenges exploitative supply chains, and creates ripples that extend far beyond the cup. A decision made in a kitchen in Chicago or Denver reverberates through economies thousands of miles away. In this way, the morning ritual becomes an act of global citizenship. Of course, some will argue this is a small matter in the larger scope of health. But history teaches us that small, consistent actions change civilizations. The decision to walk daily, to eat more vegetables, to substitute cacao for cocoa, these are cumulative forces. And for seniors, these forces spell the difference between years lived in decline and years lived in strength. So here's the simple guide. Choose raw cacao if you want maximum benefits and are willing to adjust to a more bitter taste. Choose natural cocoa if your stomach demands something gentler, but avoid anything processed with alkali or loaded with sugar. Stay clear of chocolate mixes and creamers. No matter how familiar they look on the shelf, they are not your allies. Think of every dollar you spend on true cacao or cocoa as a direct investment in your muscles, your energy, and your independence. The stories prove it. Margaret's liquid strength, John's rediscovery of energy after abandoning creamers, countless others who turned a daily beverage into a daily victory. These are not isolated anecdotes. They are evidence of a shift waiting to happen. Now, the challenge turns to you. Are you drinking cacao or cocoa in your morning coffee? And if not, which will you choose after today? Your answer is more than a preference. It's a strategy. It's the line between aging as decline and aging as resilience. If this breakdown has brought clarity, you won't want to miss what comes next. In the following investigation, I'll reveal the 3 biggest mistakes seniors make when trying to build muscle after 60, and how simple adjustments can double the results. Until then, remember, strength is built in teaspoons, in choices, in rituals. And every choice you make compounds into the future you live. Here's to mornings of clarity, to bodies that remain strong, and to lives that resist decline. A teaspoon of cacao in your coffee might not look like much, but it is, in truth, the first step toward stronger, more energetic days ahead. As we close this investigation, let's step back and look at the bigger picture. What began as a simple question, cacao or cocoa, unfolds into a narrative about health, economics, and even identity. For seniors over 60, the choice is not just about taste, not just about habit. It is about reclaiming strength in a world that often assumes decline is inevitable. For too long, the food industry has blurred the lines, selling nostalgia and sweetness while stripping away the essence of what once made chocolate sacred. Supermarket shelves filled with glossy packaging promise vitality, but behind them lie products engineered for profit, not health. The tragedy is that millions of seniors, eager to protect their strength, are lured into consuming powders that deliver little more than sugar and disappointment. This is not just mislabeling, it is misdirection. And its cost is measured not only in dollars, but in weaker muscles, lost independence, and diminished dignity. Raw cacao is different. It preserves the original complexity of the cocoa bean, delivering flavonoids that act as biological messengers, repairing tissue and increasing blood flow. The science is clear. Within weeks of consistent use, seniors can experience more energy, sharper clarity, less stiffness, and stronger mobility. Within months, these benefits translate into measurable changes in daily life. Walking longer distances, lifting heavier objects, or simply rising from a chair with confidence. For a generation facing the realities of aging, this is nothing short of transformative. And yet, choosing cacao is more than a health decision. It is an act of empowerment. Every time a senior chooses raw cacao over processed cocoa, they are rejecting an industrial system that profits from weakness and dependency. They are supporting small farmers across the globe, from Ghana to Ecuador, whose livelihoods depend on producing cacao the traditional way. In that sense, a morning cup of cacao coffee is not only fuel for muscles, but fuel for fairness, sustainability, and dignity worldwide. But let us be realistic. Change does not happen overnight. Many seniors will struggle with the taste, with the price, or simply with breaking old habits. That is why the message must be repeated, reinforced, and carried forward. Small daily choices compound into life-changing results. Switching from cocoa to cacao is not a miracle cure. It is a cornerstone in a larger strategy. Paired with movement, balanced nutrition, and consistent routines, it becomes one of the simplest, most effective defenses against muscle decline. The stakes are enormous. Sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss, is not just a medical condition. It is one of the greatest predictors of dependency, hospitalization, and long-term care. The U.S. alone spends billions annually on this silent epidemic. Yet here lies a low-cost intervention hiding in plain sight, one that science supports, tradition reveres, and individuals can implement today. The challenge is not access, it is awareness. And that is where documentaries like this matter. They shine a light where marketing casts shadows. Now, let us project forward. What would happen if millions of seniors across America, Europe, and Asia replaced their cocoa with cacao? Healthcare systems would save billions. Families would see grandparents remain stronger for longer. Communities would witness seniors walking with confidence rather than fear. And economies in developing nations would be strengthened by fairer trade in cacao. This is the ripple effect of one teaspoon. Proof that even the smallest choices carry global consequences. And so, we arrive at the final question. What will you choose? Tomorrow morning, when you stand at your kitchen counter, staring at your coffee and the powder beside it, will you choose convenience or will you choose strength? Will you buy into the illusion of sweetness or invest in the reality of vitality? The decision is yours, but the consequences are shared by your body, by your family, and by the world. Remember Margaret in Colorado, whose mornings transformed with cacao. Remember John in Texas, who discovered new energy after abandoning flavored creamers. These are not isolated stories. They are the beginnings of a movement of seniors who refuse to surrender their independence, who believe aging can still mean thriving, and who see in a simple morning drink the possibility of a stronger tomorrow. So here is the call to action. If you are over 60, do not wait. Begin with 1 teaspoon. Blend it into your coffee. Adjust, adapt, and stay consistent. Watch as weeks turn into strength, and strength turns into freedom. And then, share your story. Let others know that decline is not destiny, that choices matter, and that vitality is still within reach. This is not just nutrition. It is strategy. It is resistance against weakness. It is investment in resilience. And it is proof that the future of aging is not written in frailty, but in strength. The verdict is clear. Raw cacao is the champion. Natural cocoa is the runner-up. Everything else is noise. And so, as we close this report, we leave you with this truth. Aging is inevitable, but decline is optional. The spoon is in your hand. The choice is yours. Stronger muscles, sharper minds, more energetic days ahead. 1 teaspoon at a time.